Thank you very much, President. I had pressed earlier to speak about the land, and unfortunately I was not recognized. But I'm happy that you acknowledge the good work of our Mayor Mashaba there, the Mayor of the EFF, who's doing a wonderful job for the EFF in the Joburg municipality. And that these people are going to continue losing all the time when they speak against the land, because they've already lost a metro because of the land. Now, Mr. President, I want to check, which law were you relying on when you paid these monies? Because the law that most of your people refer to is actually not that clear as to whether the state can pay for such offenses. And since now the president has lost the spy tapes, with that agreement, are you now saying, is he going to pay from his personal coffers? But also, the amount you are pointing at, we don't think that it includes cases like the Nkandla case, cases like the public protector's case, which the court was very clear that he must pay from his personal pocket, and he's appealing that. So if you were to take almost all these cases, that amount will not be accurate, because in our own calculations, we are sitting at almost 64 million, which has been paid for legal costs of the former president, the delinquent himself, who you kept and is still campaigning for you, creating an impression that there are two presidents in your ruling party. So we are saying to you that you removed him because you thought this guy was not good enough. He has cost us a lot of money as the state, yet he's good enough to campaign for your beautiful face. Because now he's carrying your placard. You must be ashamed that such a person who has costed the state so much money because of personal reasons and avoiding to go to prison, he still goes around carrying your poster the same way as Ketane Mathangu, walking with you. You are so proud to walk with delinquents around you and claim to be clean.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The amounts that have been collated are the amounts that the Department of Justice and Correctional Services has been able to collect up to now. Honorable Malema is quoting amounts of 64 million. I am not aware of that. We have been using the agreement, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Malema, the agreement that was struck between former President Jacob Zuma and the government as this instrument that has enabled the government to help pay the money, on the understanding, as the agreement clearly states, that the money will be paid back if he is found to have been personally responsible for these acts. Now, that was an agreement that was struck. Now, we also need to make a distinction between the payment, the various legal cases that have been going on, to which he has appealed. He has appealed against certain cases where legal costs have been involved, and those need to be separated from the ones that we are talking about now. The ones that we've spoken about being 15 million, having divided them into two categories. So those are the ones that we have deeper knowledge of, and the instrument which you asked, which instrument did we use? We used the agreement, and clearly it is. I will need to check that more closely. I will need to do that. This is not the first time that this has been done. It has been done before for other officials, and indeed, because you see, the acts that former President Zuma was charged with, he was charged with acts that arose as he was occupying a government position. Yes, it was. No, it was not before. It was as a result of conduct that had to do with him occupying a government position. And in that regard, yes, there is a practice that those who are charged for activities, be they criminal or otherwise, and this agreement covers that. The agreement covers that. For those who are charged, the government will cover that. And when the court finally, and this is important, because our judiciary is so independent that it does, even in the end, make a determination on the payment of costs, of legal costs. So once these matters are finalized, the court will be able to make a determination. And in this regard, they will even have line of sight of this agreement that has been reached. And I'm sure that when they do make a determination on basis of the outcome of the case, they will be able to determine how those legal costs should be dealt with. Right now, because the agreement is still in place, there's just no way in which we could right now say to President Zuma, in violation of the agreement that was reached, that he must pay the costs. And I know that it would be exciting on many people's minds that he must pay back the costs, but we have to wait until that case is finalized and a determination is made by court. We did it on the basis of an agreement. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Alberts.
Speaker.
No, you can't have two opportunities, Honorable
My question
Malema.
is not answered.
No, Honorable Malema, take your seat.
That's where we have a problem, because my question is not answered.
No, Honorable Malema.
I've written a question to the President about which policy was he following.
Honorable Malema, the President has
to
responded to you.
No, he says to me, you have to check
you
which
that
law.
he has to check on that.
But this was a written question to him long before he came here. It's
Malema,
here. He should have checked before he comes here.
Now
he says to me,
take your seat, Honorable Malema.
Even when I've written a question to him, what is the purpose of writing a question?
Honorable Malema, take your seat.
But my question is not answered, Speaker. What is the purpose of this exercise? Are we going back to a situation where...
You are allowed to pursue that issue outside of this sitting now.
Where would I see this guy? I can't see him anywhere. Where would I find him?
We have to proceed to Honorable Alberts.
I will look for you in Sundays.
The Honorable Alberts.
Thank you, Speaker.
On a point of order, Speaker. On a point of order.
What's the point of order, Honorable Shivambu?
The Constitution and the rules of the National Assembly places an obligation on us as Parliament to hold the executive, and more specifically the President, accountable. We do that through oral questions and through written questions. We have written a question exactly 2 weeks ago. How does it come about that a president comes here without an answer about giving us legal reference, because all money of the state has to be spent according to law? Why are we not given the answer as to what is the legal basis of taking money of the state? What is the legal basis of the agreement of taking money of the state and give to a constitutional delinquent who has been wasting our time going to court after court? Because if we do not deal with that decisively, it means someone else is going to do it. How many public representatives are there? There are many MECs in South Africa, because when Jacob Zuma did these things, he was an MEC in KwaZulu-Natal. When he was accused of corruption with the sheikhs, he was an MEC in KwaZulu-Natal. So are you saying that all the MECs, all the MMCs, all the ministers must come and queue for legal costs from the state?
Please.
What law is establishing the giving of money to Jacob Zuma?
The President has now responded, and you are not satisfied with his response. He has said he will check on that. You are complaining. We cannot dwell much longer on this back and forth between you and your dissatisfaction and the president. It can be pursued outside of this sitting. Can only be pursued outside of this sitting, and I'm not allowing that the time of this sitting must be further wasted on this matter. The Honorable the President.
Madam Speaker,
Yes,
the question said, and I'd like to deal with that. The question did say, what is the total amount that the presidency spent on the legal costs of former President Jacob Zuma since his election as president? And on what legal provision or policy did the state rely when using state resources to fund former president? Now, that is a legitimate question, and what I did answer was we focused, Honorable Malema, we focused on the agreement. And I'd like you to accept that having had an agreement that was signed, in constructing our answer, we focused on the agreement and did not go further to look at the legal provision or the policy. And that is why I said, if you listen carefully, what I said was, we will look into that. And I can give you an undertaking that we will come back to you on that. Having found the agreement, we immediately thought that will give you an answer that would be satisfactory in the circumstances. Clearly, you are not satisfied with that answer because you want us to go further and look at the legal provision or the policy, which we shall do and come back to you. So we will be able to do so within a week. Thank you very much.
That is being presidential.
Honorable President.
Presidential.
The Honorable President,